Hello, welcome to Podnas. This is a sports show with a Southern flair. I'm Daniel Hawks. That's Jared Roser. Today, we are going to go over that Monday Night Football loss for the Saints, week 6 of college football, and we're going to give you our nominees for the top plays of the week. Jared, how you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I know it's the morning after a Saints loss that we'll unpack, and it kind of sucked the way it mainly started, but just overall to drop another one, lose 3 straight. But as we talked about last time or so, I just feel like I'm at a much better energy place when we record in the morning
Yeah.
than you are. Who
No, you
you
definitely are.
you sound like Reese Davis in the fourth quarter of that Cal Miami game right now. I hope everything's okay.
Everything is fine. I'm battling off a little sinus infection, but that's why we don't record together. We record locally, so I'm not going to get you sick. Don't worry about it. But yeah, you talked about it a little bit. Let's
Also, we live like 14
no,
hours
no,
away.
no, 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 no. Erroneous.
That's
Erroneous
a
on all counts.
that's a fact, Jack.
And those are the two main reasons that we don't record together. So we got them both in there.
Yeah, the
Uh,
distance and the illness.
yeah. And
Germs.
also, even after I get done with this, the minty illness, like minty fresh minty bee is also why we don't record together. But yeah. Uh, uh Saints end up dropping dropping their game last night on Monday Night Football. Uh the Chiefs are still the Chiefs. Juju Smith-Schuster and Kareem Hunt came back to life. Um which, I whatever. I don't even know what to think about this. Like Derek Carr gets injured, he leaves with an oblique injury in the fourth quarter. When the game was pretty much in hand, with the way that the Saints were moving the ball. Um, it just felt like there were so many almost for the Saints this entire game. And that feels like a lot of this season is like, well, all if one thing would have happened, like a couple of balls just went right through receivers' hands. There was a lot of receivers, both sides, just getting like straight up tackled before the ball got there, and there were just no flags. Um, there were several times where like literally someone wasn't even looking at the ball. A Chiefs cornerback just tackled a Saints wide receiver, and the Saints wide receiver was looking around. I was like, yeah, you probably should have thrown a little flaggy there, but that's fine. What were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, so I was trying to work on some articles and had the Manning cast on over to the sideline or to the side of me over there where a television is for folks that are trying to sketch out my my desk area and bedroom and whatnot. And so I don't know that I caught all of what you're talking about from a potential interference call type stuff, missed, etc. through the course of the game. I know I saw the Rashid Shaheed deep ball that you know, the Mannings pretty quickly dismissed. I don't know. I didn't like it very much, obviously. But my biggest takeaway was a lot of what you said of just missed opportunities. The Derek Carr interception early was, I was on Twitter talking about as I watched him take the field for that game, going into a game that I didn't have overly high expectations for the Saints to come out with a win. I thought we talked about it last week. I thought they had a chance, but we didn't expect the Saints to go up there and win on Monday night. And I just kind of had this energy of, all right, Carr, let's see what happens. And then very quickly was just shaking my head, asking what the hell that throw was. And so you immediately start down 7-0. The first time this season that the Chiefs have started with the lead. It's a team that struggled to start fast and then finds ways to win. And instead, for the second straight week, you kind of gift wrap your opponent an advantage right out the gate. And so it started from a place that I felt like the Saints were not doomed, but pretty behind the 8 ball and never really overcame that. And as much as they would kind of be right back there on the Chiefs' heels, great to see Foster Moreau in the end zone again and just be right there in that game. They could never quite make the play or stop the Chiefs from making the play that would get them over the hump.
There were so many times, and I just got to watch the second half. I had a kickball game in the first half that wouldn't allow me to watch anything but when I wasn't kicking balls or in the field catching balls, you know?
I wanted
Uh,
to. I'm gonna leave the low hanging fruit of that alone. I was gonna joke about what grade you were in, but I know there's a lot of folks that really enjoy adult kickball leagues around the
yeah.
country, and so shout out to you guys.
Yeah. Rec sports here in Chicago are very big. So it's give me a
Look,
break. All
it's a
right.
gr- it's a great way to make friends, mingle, be active on a Monday night. You know,
Yeah, except for the team that we were playing last night. They were all kind of dicks. All right. So what was I saying? I was talking about something about the Saints. I was talking about
you said
Saints.
you only caught the second half of the game. You didn't catch the first half, and just
Oh,
what?
Patrick Mahomes, it was impossible to get pressure on him, it felt like, or to get him down. The amount of times that he just extended plays in the pocket or was able to just dance around and like a little 5 foot bubble even to make Saints players miss. I mean, there's a reason why he's the best football player on the planet. And the reason why they've won two Super Bowls in a row and are going for a third. The Chiefs are just really good. The Saints were going to have a hard time overcoming that anyway, especially with all the injuries. But I think that's also my biggest concern for like going into the rest of the Saints season is the injuries are piling up. We are not they're not a healthy team right now. Um, and that is usually a lot of the time the most successful teams in the NFL season are the ones that can stay healthiest. So, um, not really sure what this entails. I don't know how long Derek Carr is going to be out. And does that mean Jake Haener? Do we get to see Spencer Rattler maybe come in and see what we have in that rookie? Wouldn't mind to see him on the bench a little bit more and just learn a little bit before he comes in, because at one point he was considered a first round talent. So I would love to see if Derek Carr is going to miss any extended amount of time, what we kind of have in Spencer.
Yeah, I think where this team is pretty similar to what we talked about after the Atlanta game, where if you look at what we expected going into the season of where they would be 5 weeks in, I think a lot of us probably would have looked at 2 and 3 as a likelihood. But the way that they got there has been so frustrating, where they raised the expectations early and then let games get away from them, particularly in the third and fourth week. And then the injury piece is so huge, because we talk about a league where games tend to end up close, tend to be won and lost in margins the vast majority of the time. And we went into the season with some concerns of how well the Saints would do in close games, even looking at them with a healthy roster. And we saw some moments in each of these last few weeks, including last night with the early decision by Carr or some of the play calling at times. I didn't really understand the whole dynamic leading up to that last fourth down that really kind of put the nail in the coffin for the Saints, so to speak, and just what they were doing there. But still some of those issues. And then you add in the fact that, okay, the offensive line looking better was a big piece of the first 2 weeks going a lot better than we maybe expected. And now they're banged up as hell on the offensive line and all of these areas where when there's little room for error to begin with, all of a sudden you're that much more diminished in terms of what were bright spots in that 2-0 start. So it's it's a tough spot to be. Ultimately, I looked at this as potentially a 9-win team that would be 2-3 right now. So they still, a lot is in front of them, but it's been discouraging to see the way they've kind of fallen back to this after the great start.
How much do you think should be put on Dennis Allen, the coaching staff? Because that's been a lot of what I've seen on, just basic media or whatever is Dennis Allen's seat getting hot?
I think coming into this season, honestly, there was a lot of frustration and microscope on him, and so that's part of what was so interesting about the first couple weeks, is particularly from the Clint Kubiak standpoint, a lot seemed to feel different from a standpoint of just trusting that the coaching staff suddenly was out coaching people in those first two games, particularly just offensive scheme wise. Um, but last night in particular, I think there were some moments where it was just some head scratching dynamics. And I don't want to put everything on that fourth down late. They were already down and not in position necessarily to win that game. They were just trying to stay alive. But yeah, I mean, I think he came into this season with a lot of microscope on him, and that when you lose three straight in ways that they have lost those, that there's not really a long shelf life or long leash on coaches in college or NFL. To be frank, football or high level sports, and so we'll see how things continue. But yeah. I don't know. I'm not a big go after people's job type
No,
talker,
for sure, for sure. But
but
it is
but
in the narrative right now. So
yeah, but I know, even going into this season, there was a lot of, okay, Dennis Allen, not a lot of trust from the fan base, a lot more frustration than trust or confidence from the fan
yeah,
base. And I think that seeped into some of our season preview where we talk about just not a lot of confidence in close games that they're going to pull it out. And we've kind of seen that creep up the last few weeks.
absolutely. I also, just for what it's worth, and my life and the times that I've watched the Saints throughout it, a lot of that was obviously Sean Payton, but the usually it does not seem like the Saints management ownership is really keen to do an in-season firing as well. Um, so you know, uh, I don't think we'll see anything this season if I'm being frank or if I'm looking at it, but I do definitely think that seat's getting a little bit warmer with each loss, especially if you know got in the next 5 games, they've got 3 division opponents. They will have like completed the division by the time we get to that second week in November. But every game coming up is winnable. Like that depends on, I would say, Derek Carr too. I don't know how much I trust Jake Hainer, Spencer Rattler led team to do stuff, but we'll see.
Hey, who's to say,
Who knows? Who knew?
if the
Who would have thunk it?
if the defense is playing as well as the defense has for most of the start to this season, and you have an offensive coach that you trust to kind of scheme some things up, and maybe it looks a little bit different with one of these young quarterbacks than it did when you were kind of airing some things out those first couple of weeks. But stranger things have happened certainly than a Kubiak getting a quarterback ready to do what he needs to do to keep a solid team overall, afloat.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we will keep an eye on that and we will keep you updated. That's what we do here on Podnas. But let's move on. Next, we're going to kind of recap the Louisiana schools for this college football week, week 6, just in the books as of Saturday evening. You got more on this than I do. So like you take
Do
over
I?
right here. You do.
Yeah.
You do.
This is
Uh,
another one of those weeks where we kind of should have figured it was not going to go well for the Saints because things went pretty well on the college front, and it feels like we can't fully get a complete "this is awesome" Louisiana football weekend. And so when things go as well as they did for the colleges, with LSU and Louisiana Tech both off, Tulane, the Raging Cajuns, and ULM, the three FBS schools that were in action, were great. I don't know that you've seen anything of these, but Tulane hung 71 on UAB on Saturday morning / early afternoon.
I
So
was,
let's start there.
yeah, absolutely. So I was watching this, but not watching that. I was following this on my phone because I wasn't able to watch it. So I did not see any of it. I just saw the score and a bunch of times was like, oh, damn.
Yeah. Program record 71. I had pulled a stat. I don't know where the hell it is, but I think the 51-point margin in a 71-20, there it is. 51-point margin was the largest for the program since 1939 when they defeated Sewanee 52-0. So back in those days when you were dealing with a Sewanee team that popped up a lot early on in the history of Tulane and LSU football. Rayshawn Pleasant is phenomenal at returning kickoffs, a former West Monroe star and bootlegger star who seems to have, just huge returns ready, if not every week, every couple of weeks. Javion White, I was impressed with another, Franklin Parish star, former bootlegger who's a freshman that I think was a steal for Coach JJ McCleskey and those guys. He had a really nice sideline interception that was kind of a highlight reel play, showed some flashes of what he brings to the table. Those are a couple of the younger guys stepping into bigger roles, but Mekhi Hughes was great again. A lot of the same names we've talked about week in, week out. When you win 71-20, a whole lot is going right from top to bottom. And it also, and this is where I have another clip for you that I assume you haven't seen. When you win 71-20, sometimes things can get a little weird. And I didn't really understand this at the end of the game as UAB coach Trent Dilfer, we talk about hot seats for coaches. I don't know that there's a whole lot hotter than Trent Dilfer's seat out there in Birmingham, but he and Tulane coach John Sumrall at the end of this, where it's just kind of a weird moment.
You had 3 interceptions, 1 return for a touchdown. You had a special teams touchdown with the 100-yard kickoff by Rayshawn Pleasant, and then the ground game and the overall efficiency that Tulane.
I don't have an explanation for that yet in terms of Sumrall speaking on it, because he's actually talking to members of the media for the first time this week right now as we have this conversation. I got the reaction from you right away that I was interested to see, because I don't know that after a football game
I want anyone touching my face. I don't care who you are. Yeah.
The other coach, unless we're like best friends, which I don't know to be the case here. I mean, I'm sure there's some history there that they know each other or whatever, but I don't know, man. Hot day.
It looked like he was about to go, like, it looked like he was going full in for it. Like, thank you for beating me.
Yeah, 100%. Hot day in Alabama. You have another morning kickoff. It's still early October. People are sweating. Tensions are flaring over the course of Tulane absolutely beating the brakes off of UAB. And then it turns into, it looked like any number of those memes of someone trying to go in and someone not being there for it. You could see.
I was going to say, you could see at the end, especially at the end, he was like, just let me get out of here, dog.
Could you not?
Could you not?
Yeah.
Also, let's talk about, we gave our picks for the and correctly gave our picks for the Woke versus Coke Miami Cal, and that turned out to be a wild game. Cal gets up early, Miami comes back, storms back, and ends up winning that thing in the fourth. And then also we got to talk about it. Tennessee and Alabama both drop games this weekend. You got any thoughts? Yeah, what you think about it?
Yeah.
No. What do you think? I mean, both these teams are still in the playoffs, Tennessee and Alabama, but with a kind of bad loss like that to Alabama, does that give you any pause, or do you think that this was maybe just a flash in the pan?
I think that we're just seeing, and this is something we may have touched on at some point previously too, just as it relates to LSU. I think that we're seeing consistency in college football teams being more difficult than ever to come by in terms of the top flight programs. Brian Kelly was asked about it somewhat yesterday about the parity in college football and if some of this was here to stay, because five of the top 11 teams in the AP poll lost this week, and you have historically notable upsets like Vandy over Alabama. We talk about another team that almost lost. Cal was up 20 on Miami late. And so when you come off of a Saturday like that, as chaotic as that was, and you're looking at Vandy beating Alabama for the first time since 1984, you kind of wonder, hey, is this a bigger thing going on? It was the third straight week that at least 4 of the AP top 15 lost. And so I think in the world of transfer portal, for one, and how much roster turnover there is, and as much as we thought going into the transfer portal, some coaches felt like the transfer portal opportunity was going to turn the group of 5 and FCS into just sort of a feeder system, farm system for some of the bigger programs that would then kind of pluck the best. But it's really become more of a revolving door where a lot of guys from those big programs now every year are also leaving and bringing talent influxes to less highly touted Power 4 schools, as well as the G5s and so on and so forth. And so the talent is moving all over the place, and it's very fluid. And so the ability to stockpile the way Alabama did for years, or Georgia had started to do, or Ohio State or other powers had through the years, isn't really there, because guys in the 2020s want to get on the damn field and are a little bit less patient to wait it out. And so there's this fluidity of talent, and then the ability to build, okay, here's a program guy that's been waiting in the wings for 2 or 3 years, and now they're ready to roll, isn't there quite the same way. And so there's a little bit more inconsistency at the top and vulnerability as a result of it. And it turns into parity. So I think you'll see losses like this, and it'll give you concern, but then you'll see another team suffer a loss like this in some capacity in another week or two. And so everything's just going to be really fluid, and those teams like in Alabama are going to be able to lose to a Vanderbilt and still get into a 12-team playoff, because you're going to see Notre Dame lose to Northern Illinois a couple weeks ago, and all these all these things just kind of cycle through, where I don't think it's going to be season long even footing for some of these programs with the big boys, and that all of a sudden it's just going to be, communist Russia out there of everybody's 6-6 or whatever. But I do think that you're going to see some notable slip ups like this, and that it's going to ultimately, even the top teams will have those notable slip ups, still make the playoffs, and still probably be fine by the end of the season.
Yeah. And we're going to have another 2 versus 3 matchup this week. So Ohio State and Oregon play. And then also, number one team in the country is taking on, it's going to be Texas versus Oklahoma. So, there's a possibility, especially if Ewers, isn't 100% and tries to come back, or, Arch is still learning, Arch is still, figuring stuff out, I would say. And, Ewers is, I think, the heart and soul of that team. But if he's not 100% and they can't get it together, you could see Oklahoma at home taking that. And then we could see 1 and 2 maybe fall this week, or 1 and 3. So
100%.
Yeah.
And I was a little bit surprised to not see LSU move up in the AP poll after the chaotic weekend. But at the same time, it's early October, and we're just beginning to see the length of upheaval over the course of the season. And so when you have games like that, where somebody ranked ahead of LSU has to lose each of those games, and then you're going to have some more curveballs, maybe not Vandy over Bama level of eye-popping results, but you're going to have other teams lose to lower ranked and unranked teams. And so a lot is still there. And so for LSU to be right there on the bubble of the playoff picture, up toward the top of the SEC standings, has a great opportunity this week to knock off Ole Miss right in front of them. I think the college football season is going to get a whole lot more weird before it really settles down. We're just kind of on the upward climb of the roller coaster that is college football. We'll see how it all goes. Look, you just be as consistent as you can be, and let all the other stuff happen around you, and
that's
you'll be
all
all
I
right.
can do. That's all we can do, I personally think that all chaos is going to break loose the second week in a row, and that's what I'm rooting for. I just want to be an agent of chaos. That's all I can do. That's what's in front of me. So
yeah. And look, I know you're about to flip the script over to the high school plays. We're not done with the Louisiana colleges.
What?
Because the Cajuns and ULM.
Oh, I forgot we didn't talk about that. All right, go ahead.
The Cajuns ended an 11-game losing streak to Southern Miss. They went up there to Hattiesburg and did not trail in that game, had a shutout second half against the Eagles up there. And so huge win for those guys. The Cajuns going up there winning 23-13 against Southern Miss. ULM, meanwhile, it's time to take them seriously, man. They trailed 10-0 to a James Madison squad that was looked at as, could that be the group of 5, group of 6 playoff contender, the Dukes up there in Virginia. Instead, the Warhawks not only win that game, but overcome a 10-0 deficit, go on a 21-3 run, and are now up there at the top of the Sun Belt Conference standings. And ULM is a program that has struggled for years and years. Folks wondered, should they even be FBS? Fans wondered, should they go back to FCS? That's kind of a heated debate up in that corner of the state. And they knock off the Dukes 21-19. And I think officially kind of sent a message to folks, certainly around the Sun Belt Conference, and I think more and more around the country, that they need to be taken seriously in a way that they haven't been in the entirety of their FBS history. And so great to see what Coach Bryant Vincent and those guys are doing up there in Northeast Louisiana. Got a program and a town rallying around just, I guess you could still say resurgent, because they were an FCS power years and years ago when we were small children. But in terms of FBS success, this is unprecedented for those guys right now. And they seem to have an energy around them that they are not satisfied, that despite some of these big wins thus far, they haven't accomplished any of their goals yet. And so watching how they continue this momentum now is going to be a lot of fun week to week, because they've been doubted pretty much week in and week out. And if somehow continued to stack notable wins, Liberty, Troy, now James Madison, it's been impressive.
Absolutely. And I just want to let the tens of people watching know that I was not trying to forego talking about the Cajuns or ULM. I'm looking at the timer. I'm trying to keep things on pace.
Sure.
And that's the only reason. I was not trying to throw shade. You'll know when I throw shade. I'm pretty forthright with it. So
yeah, it's not a sly, shy shade throwing. It's right out there on Main Street.
Yep, absolutely. Whatever that means. All right. Hey, go Cajuns, go Warhawks.
You will march your shade to the river through the streets of Nashville for all the world to see.
Absolutely. Last night, so I went out after with our little kickball team, and we were watching this game, and one dude was like, "Why are you a Saints fan?" I was like, "Oh, I was born in Baton Rouge. I went to LSU. I, grew up around them." And he goes, "Oh, I went to Alabama." I go, "That sucks." And he goes, I was thinking the same thing to you. It's like, yeah, for sure. Also, I just waited a minute. Then I was like, so how about Vandy? Huh? How about that? And I just got a look from him, and he kept eating I think he was eating a salad or something. So I was like, yeah, okay. That was all I need. I just love it when Alabama fans don't have anything to say. And right now, at least for the next 4 or 5 days, they've got nothing. And I'm just going to soak all of that in,
Yeah. Get those shots in.
Yeah. Because, inevitably it's going to come around and bite me in the ass, but is what it is. So.
Sure.
Yep. Well, let's get to my favorite part of the week. I want to see these high school plays. Let's see what we're doing, Jarrett.
Sure. We have 4 great ones again, and we start with a familiar face. I think in the Jamboree week, was one of our candidates, Aiden Anding, an LSU commit up there at Ruston High. This is the second straight week that we have a Ruston High interception as one of the play of the week candidates. Zarek Hill was in the mix last week, and here is Aiden Anding, the LSU commit, with just great recovery on this throw downfield to snatch it.
Oh, wow.
And I don't think it was a bad throw, to be honest. I just think it was a great play, because you see the receiver was still on the run there, and so he wasn't holding up a whole hell of a lot. But Aiden Anding just recovering. Here's a different angle.
That looks like a user interception in NCAA. Like it looks like
yeah. He closed that in a hurry, caught the ball perfectly, and then honestly, I think for this Stephenville, Texas team, they're just fortunate it doesn't become a pick six, because Aiden Anding goes into kind of return specialist mode. He had a kickoff return for a touchdown in the game as well. Ruston goes out to Texas and gets a 63-17 win against previously undefeated Stephenville, Texas. And so
wow,
in terms of Louisiana versus all y'all energy, a Ruston play had to be on there, and that was one of a couple of great ones from Aiden Anding alone.
Love it.
The next candidate we have is Hudson Brown, the junior quarterback for Minden, finding Braden Britton. And this one happens pretty quick, and we only have the one angle, and so I wanted to set it up a little bit there. But he's on the scramble, has Braden Britton, threads it right past a defender. Braden, one defender, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah.
Oh, a cool 7 with 8 and 9 on his tail at the end.
Most of the defense there for Braden Britton making a miss and getting to the end zone. Minden is an undefeated 5-0 at the midway mark.
All right.
Impressive job by
Yeah.
Hudson Brown buying time and getting that throw in, and then Braden Britton just puts everybody on skates a little bit there. Another skates type play, a Houston commit up there at Bunkie, Louisiana, Kyle Johnson. They call him Spud, and he just starts baking dudes here on the punt return, shows off some of his basketball ability, kind of crossover moves in the punt return, and then boom, number 30 coming across.
Yeah.
I believe that's number 30, Lucas Mose with the crazy block. We're going to go back and make sure folks see that if this will go back correctly. Let's maybe go back from the beginning and see if that helps it out.
Listen, I'll watch it again. You
Yeah,
replay that whole thing, you know?
Trying to get it in there, but it doesn't seem to be playing right for some reason.
No, you saved yourself there, buddy.
What?
With your verbiage.
I don't even know what I was about to say.
Yeah.
But great play by Kyle Johnson. And again, I think that was number 30, Lucas Mose, with the block over there, and just huge block at the end of that play on a great return by Kyle Johnson. But the Bunkie Panthers, talk about a resurgent program the last couple of years. They've been great. They moved up, I think, to number 3 this week in the Class 3A power rankings, and number 1 or LSWA polls, number 1 in 3A, a school that you know pretty well, a certain University Lab Cubs program right there. And you see Keelan Moses right here, linebacker, on a fake punt play, takes the snap, one of the up men, and then he's just off to the races.
Let's go.
Another LSU commit there. And we've got 2 LSU commits. I don't try to give favoritism to LSU commits, but LSU commits, as you might imagine, just make really good plays in high school football.
Yeah.
And you see Keelan taking that snap and then, again, just winding his way as a linebacker through an entire 5A defense for a big win for the Cubs, and then wraps it up with the kind of "are you not entertained" moment for the folks there in the end zone.
Listen, I don't want to show favoritism, but that's my alma mater, so I'm rooting for that one this week. I don't want to show favoritism.
A practice 3-pointer on that campus.
I made a couple in game too. Okay, don't completely waste my talents. I had a 1 to 2 at least minimum.
That's big.
And I think a couple concussions too. So
in basketball,
yeah, bro. I Tyler Hansborough that stuff all the time. I just go in head down and then look up at the rim.
Did you play a lot more than I'm giving you credit for? That you had multiple concussions as a basketball player?
Yeah, well, my junior year, I broke my nose as a basketball player. Someone undercut me on a free throw, and I have this weird thing, y'all, where I will not brace myself with my hands because I'm afraid of breaking my wrists. It's like one of my biggest fears. I just don't I hate it. I don't know what it is. So I went like Geronimo and just hit face first. That's why you see this lovely little crease or whatever.
If folks are still watching and see my reaction, it's because this is not the first or second time I have heard of his weird "let's not break my wrist, I'll just face plant into the ground" move.
Yeah. And then one time my sister as a doctor was like, you can like do this. I was like, oh, that's such a good idea.
That's why you're the doctor.
Oh man. Well, we've gone completely off the rails here, which is always one of my favorite parts of PODnas. But if you would like to vote on who is going to be the top play of the week, you can go over to our Instagram, PODnas_LA. Vote for that. In our episode later this week, we will be announcing who was the winner. Go to Louisiana. Go to Louisiana versus all y'all YouTube. Jared's got some stuff to say, and then I'll get us out of here.
Just the Kyle Johnson punt return, credit to Harrison Vapnik of KALB up there in Central Louisiana. That's a highlight that he got, and I saw on Twitter from Kyle's Twitter. And so credit to KALB on that one. The other 3 are all huddle highlight plays from those guys' film.
Great. And to follow up on even more Louisiana recruiting, Louisiana sports, Louisiana football news, go to Louisiana versus All Y'all YouTube channel. Like, comment, share this video if you're liking what you're hearing. If you like messing around with us, we love hanging out with you guys. We want to hear from you. Please comment on this video. Let us know what you think. Let us know where we were right, where we were wrong. And until next time, PODnas.
And it's a ticket talking margin for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. I've been comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it, comma and a